You're watching the Killer Potential series. Today we're going to talk about why the Xenomorph should be a killer in DBD. We have 32 killers in the game and we've started to see some of the killer's powers rinsed and repeated. How would the Xenomorph play in Dead by Daylight? Would it have a ranged attack like Albert Wesker? Or could it have some enhanced map movement speed like Hillbilly or Blight? Or could the Xenomorph use stealth to camouflage into the environment like Ghostface? Due to the absence of clearly visible eyes, it's possible that the creature uses echolocation to see its environment, much like bats. So do you think that the alien's power would involve an echolocation aura reading ability? An aura reading base kit tracking ability doesn't seem too far-fetched, especially since knowing the survivor locations is one of the main mechanics of the Skull Merchant. The possibilities for Alien are endless. In order to understand the best way to implement the Xenomorph into DBD, we must first understand how it hunts and kills its victims. So my 61,000 friends and the 75% of you that are not subscribed to this channel, let's talk about the Xenomorph's killer potential in Dead by Daylight. Special thanks to Yarman for helping me compile the clips to make this video, and a big thanks to Nightmare Laser from my Twitch community for designing this killer power. Speaking of Twitch, I'm live on Twitch right now streaming Dead by Daylight, link for that in the description below. For the vast majority of DBD hyped licenses, the movie licenses are much more hyped than the video game ones, with only a couple exceptions. A lot of movie monsters in general are seen as iconic. This is because cinema history is rooted in monsters. King Kong, Godzilla, and Frankenstein's monster were all stars of the early years of filmmaking. However, the Xenomorph marked a new generation of monster horror that terrified moviegoers all throughout the 1980s, and demonstrated new groundbreaking computer-generated imagery effects. Using animatronic puppetry from the outstanding Carlo Rambaldi, Alien could present a monster that felt organic, much more so than monsters from the past. So when this film hit the theaters in 1979, it was horror on the big screen at a level that nobody had ever seen before. The level of impact the Xenomorph had when it first hit the movie screens is already grounds for bringing in this creature into Behaviour Interactive's Dead by Daylight. It's a huge franchise that shook the world, and actually there are other classic franchises with the same level of story depth and cinematic significance, but not as much hype in DBD because a lot of people haven't seen some of the older horror franchises out there. The Alien franchise is so iconic because it's a giant action-packed universe that's drenched in atmosphere with a dangerous monster known as the Xenomorph. Xenomorphs are terrifying creatures with acid blood that burns anything it touches. It's considered to be both a defense mechanism as well as a weapon. And we know this because when trying to remove the facehugger from Kane's face, a simple incision on the creature's claw causes a blood spurt that burns through several levels of the ship's hull. So even at its most vulnerable, the Xenomorphs and facehuggers have one less defense. Do you think that this physical property could somehow be used in Dead by Daylight? The Xenomorph is a highly intelligent, adaptable creature, capable of evolving rapidly to suit its environment and prey. Its primary goal is to find a suitable host for reproduction, and it'll stop at nothing to achieve this objective. The Xenomorph acts like a parasite that can impregnate a human host, safe from the outside world before violently tearing its way through the chest cavity, leaving the host in great pain before death. The Xenomorph is a terrifying incarnation in itself, tapping into our deepest and darkest fears about the unknown vastness of space. But in order for the audience to truly fear it, it has to be believable. By applying physical qualities from real animals to the Xenomorph, its presence, regardless of how strange it is, seems more believable and therefore is terrifying. So because of the alien's impact on horror in particular, a lot of DBD fans think that the Xenomorph deserves a place in the video game Hall of Fame of Horror. Xenomorph is arguably more lethal and aggressive than the majority of killers in Dead by Daylight. For years after its release, the chestburster scene was upheld as one of the most frightening and intense sequences ever committed to film. The scene's casual setting of a crew having a meal together is interrupted by Kane beginning to choke and shake before a young alien creature bursts from his chest. Other films have had more gore, but few scenes have been able to stand themselves on the memory quite like this. It is consistently considered to be one of the most iconic moments in cinema. Possibly a sequence like this could be used for a Mori animation. One of the Xenomorph's most notable hunting tactics is its use of stealth and agility. It can move quickly and quietly through its environment, and its black endoskeleton makes it almost invisible in the darkness. The Xenomorph is also a skilled climber and can navigate complex terrain with ease, allowing it to ambush its prey from unexpected angles. The adult Xenomorph is a living weapon with great physical strength. They're masters of stealth. A favored method of acquiring prey is to wait hidden in the shadows until an appropriate victim strays near, and then drop down silently from behind and use their tail to impale whoever walks by. The prey is generally unaware that the Xenomorph is present. Xenomorphs are shown to be able to take extreme amounts of physical damage that would kill any earthly life form. The Xenomorph also possesses a highly advanced sense of hearing, and can even detect the slightest sounds from great distances. It has a keen sense of smell. It can track its prey through even the most challenging environments. Adult Xenomorphs are quick and agile and can climb across ceilings and walls, a skill they exhibit freely whether they're avoiding others, attacking, or hunting. Would we ever see a mechanic like this in Dead by by Daylight. It's almost like something you'd expect to see with Dracula. Xenomorphs can survive in extreme temperatures, are well adapted to swimming, can live in harsh atmospheres, and can even survive in a vacuum for indeterminate lengths of time. Their movements tend to be silent, and they don't radiate heat as their body temperature matches the ambient temperature. They also salivate. The saliva is not acidic, though in some of the sequels, Xenomorphs do have the ability to spit acid, which may come from their stomachs. This can be used to blind victims much like a spitting cobra. So based on these features, here's the power that would make the most sense for Alien and Dead by Daylight. When the Xenomorph spawns, they can place up to 10 facehugger eggs around the map. Survivors can destroy them much like other killer traps. But if a survivor triggers one, the egg releases a facehugger that attaches to their face, putting them in the blacked out status effect. In this state, the survivor is incapacitated, and while the survivor is in a blacked out state, the Xenomorph can take control of the facehugger and guide it towards the nearest chestburster spawning location. If the survivor is not freed from the blacked out state, they die from a chestburster, forcing survivor altruism. The chestburster event could be similar to the reverse bear trap event for the pig, giving the survivor a chance to save themselves before dying, or a teammate could assist them in taking it off. To balance this power, the Xenomorph can only place a limited number of eggs and cannot replace them once they've been used. So it's constantly a game of cat and mouse, with the killer having to decide when to use the egg to kill a survivor or to attack survivors with the Xenomorph's alternate ability. The alternate power is called predatory assault. The Xenomorph can use his powerful legs to charge towards survivors, climbing over obstacles in small loops. This ability takes time to charge and has a cooldown of 20 to 30 seconds. While charging, the Xenomorph has limited steering ability and can only turn slightly, making it harder to hit survivors who dodge at the last second. This power could be balanced by the cooldown time, requiring the killer to time their charges carefully to avoid hitting obstacles. The combination of these two powers gives the Xenomorph a unique playstyle that revolves around using its facehuggers to isolate survivors, and its predatory assault to quickly close gaps and make surprise attacks. We've seen so many other horror franchises added to DBD, but some argue that the Alien franchise isn't really horror. It's more science fiction. The original film does emphasize exploring planets, discovering new creatures, and even some artificial intelligence as well. However, I think a lot of Alien fans really do consider the first Alien movie to be a pure horror film. The sequels and remakes are more action sci-fi, but the common consensus is that the first film is really a horror film. Adding the Xenomorph as a killer in Dead by Daylight would have a huge impact to the game. The Xenomorph is one of the most iconic creatures in science fiction and horror history, and adding it would draw in a whole new group of fans to the game. The Xenomorph's unique gameplay mechanics and abilities would offer a fresh and exciting experience for both new and veteran players. Bringing in the Alien franchise into DBD would also allow for new map designs and environmental hazards. The Xenomorph's natural habitat is a dark, claustrophobic spaceship, and incorporating this atmosphere into the game would add a whole new level of tension and fear. I can imagine every killer in DBD terrorizing survivors on this map. It would create new opportunities for creative map design, such as air ducts and crouch spaces that survivors must navigate while avoiding the Xenomorph's attacks. We'd also have one of the most iconic survivors in horror added to the game as well, Ellen Ripley. Some people regard Ellen Ripley as one of the strongest female protagonists in cinema history, so this would be an excellent addition into the Hall of Fame of Horror. And a chapter like this would really bring in new and exciting gameplay mechanics, map designs, and cross-promotional opportunities. It would attract a wider audience and offer a fresh and thrilling experience for players. Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Also, a reminder that I'm live on Twitch right now streaming Dead by Daylight, link for that in the description below. Also, let me know in the comments below if there's any other killer potential videos that you want me to cover. That does it for this video. Goodbye.